Hey everybody, this is Jeff. We're about 2 weeks out from our first live event, Working with Death, which is part of Reimagine End of Life. The show is going to be on April 18th at Café du Nord at 7 p.m. We've got a great lineup of storytellers, all of whom either spent or are still spending their working careers in and around death. And I'm hoping it's going to be a really lively night of storytelling, and that everyone will kind of come away having learned something. So if you go to letsreimagine.org, you can find all the information about the event, and you can purchase tickets directly from there. You can also go to our Facebook page and click on events and do the same thing there. Thanks.
I think the social justice stuff is more important, honestly. I mean, I love music, but... And I think there's a place for music within that, but I think that people have mistaken ideas about how the two are related, I think.
That was Brian Belknap. I'm Jeff, and this is Storied San Francisco. Every week, this podcast features bartenders, photographers, artists, musicians, business owners, and other San Franciscans talking about living, working, and doing their thing here. It's a way to get to know your neighbors. Welcome to episode 24, part 2. In part 1, Brian talked about his early days in San Francisco, playing music, meeting people, and looking for a place to sleep at night. In this episode, Brian will talk about the next phase of his life here. He played some open mics before helping form his first bands in the city. He'll also talk about the now defunct Brainwash and Germ from KUSF, and how important independent radio stations are. The song Brian plays in this episode is called Makes Me Think of You. It's by one of his bands, Turpentine. Also, Brian will be having a record release party with Sally Ford and Mike Kirkendall on May 11th at Brick and Mortar. Here's Brian.
So I'll play some of my... I'm thinking, gosh, the more I think about it, the more things you remember. I think the next phase, I met Sue Sandlin. We started playing, I put a... sign up looking for someone that played bass and guitar. I wanted to kind of do a duo thing. I've been playing with Kurt and his wife Kate Mara. Great songwriting team. They do the neighborly deeds thing to this day. Just wonderful songwriters. They're part of that whole. We spent a lot of time, in their kitchen. All of us. I remember Thanksgiving with Barb, whatever. It's I have really fond memories, and they were very, very welcoming to me. When I first got out here, didn't know hardly anybody else. They'd had me over for Christmas, But I'm remembering that some of the first places I played, Max Butler, who was also part of that crowd, hosted an open mic on the Upstairs Paradise. We started going up there, and that was right across from Slim's there on the corner, whatever that is. Is that 11th?
Folsom at 11th, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, you go down there these days, and things have changed, a lot of good stuff happening still. The DNA is still actually running. I've heard some recently that's the longest operating club. And man, there were some amazing people that came through there. I remember seeing great shows like Stephen Yerke. God, people don't remember him too, but a tremendous, tremendous songwriter. We used to. The thing is, we kept those fuckers out of here for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean,
kept the Nazis and and now
we put up picket lines. I mean, Screwdriver tried to play one of the clubs down there, and we shut the fucking thing down. Yeah. And they claimed, it's like, bullshit. If we hadn't been out here with our fucking signs, you'd let those fuckers play and spread their goddamn nasty garbage. But there really was a sense of that. There was that kind of a sense of community. It's not an anything goes kind of a thing.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to come to San Francisco and play music, you're not going to come in and fuck up our scene with your goddamn... Not that everybody's perfect,
right?
But
there's a line.
There's a line, and it's just like there's that this you are clearly not just like playing at the edge of something here, which we can have a discussion about. You are actually trying to agitate fucking. We have There's a saying, when it's genocide you preach, you can't hide behind free speech. Fuck you, man. Yeah. And we don't expect the cops to do it, because, cops and Klan go hand in hand.
Yeah. So this wasn't happening back then at the DNA Lounge.
No, not the DNA. No, not back. Not good, the DNA. Good. No, but there are other places along that stretch where you saw some of that. But But anyway, how did I get off on that?
Oh, we're talking about Paradise upstairs.
Upstairs, yeah.
Paradise.
That was a really, it was an interesting room, because you had the upstairs and then you had you had two stairs downstage, 2 stages downstairs, one immediately below,
right,
and then you had the big stage, and they would try to like space things out, but if you were playing like a little acoustic set in the upstairs Paradise, it was kind of like the rhythm section of the downstairs band was in your band too.
Yeah, you're like, we hope we're on the same time signature at least.
Yeah, but God, I just had this memory of Patrick Winningham and playing a little setup there, sitting in, I think, on accordion with Max and Patrick, and Patrick and Lori Arthur, were in this great band called the Sextants. That was another one of those bands that you thought would go somewhere, but all such just wonderfully generous people to this day. Max plays with, I think he's still playing with Red Meat. Haven't seen him in a minute, but a wonderful guitar player. And still, Lori and her husband Greg have a band. They have a great little gospel band. Anyway, but we had a band called Turpentine back then. Me, Sue, and then Keith actually joined us on bass. And I put a sign up at Muddy Waters on 21st Street because this is how you found your bandmates back in. Maybe people still do, but I think it was mostly on But there was just something that was there was something that seems to me to be more organic and more human about it.
Yeah.
Where you had to tear off a little tab and all the rest of that stuff. And she came by and didn't really know how to play bass. Nevertheless, though, she was a great rhythm guitar player. Played with the Stairwell Sisters. They went on with Lisa and Stephanie and God. They played over the Prairie Home Companion. Just great harmonies, and there weren't a lot of all-female bands doing bluegrass music back in those days. So another great spot was this is now closed, sadly. I just heard, and I'm surprised. Has the Brainwash actually closed?
Yeah.
When?
A couple months ago, I want to say.
God,
it's been since 2018.
I was there in November. I was there in like October.
Yeah.
Having a whatever.
And I don't know if anyone's done it yet. I'm waiting for someone to everyone who played there in the open mics, but especially all the comedians and musicians who've gone on and got their start at Brainwash.
It's a long list.
Yeah.
I was, one of the other people I just want to mention is this buddy of mine, David Bryan, who's, now an English professor, dear friend. And, one of the best shows we probably ever played was at that, at Brainwash. And, amplifying acoustic music is a pain in the ass. And we had a gig there, and the power went out. It was one of these things where, and I have I believe it or not, I've simplified things a lot, but I had a separate cable run for everything, and we played the set there, and I was just like, fuck it, we're just pulling all the wires out, and I think it really was one of the best shows we ever played. And I learned something about performing, too, that has been useful to me to this day about how, sometimes if a crowd is really loud and inattentive, you're much better off, or pretty much always if you can think about it. If you're fighting them, you're kind of screwed. But if you just get more quiet instead of trying to fight it, you draw them in. And then even if you don't, at least you're not, in combat somehow, which is never a good thing.
Yeah.
You can be a little bit more relaxed in it. And so anyway, but this is one of the songs. I'm pretty sure we played that night. I'm going to guess we played it.
It's not. Is this a Turpentine song?
I recorded this song too. Right. I think I recorded this twice actually. I recorded it once back then with. I also have to take a minute just to give it up to the Wally sound. Another place, that just so many. Richard Buckner, Mike Kirkendall, Carlos Forster, who went on to the Four Stars, who sings on my record. so grateful on the upcoming record. And Mike Kirkendall, who's now plays with M. Ward, and she and him, and is coming down to play the record release party at on May 11th. He just made a great record with Sally Ford. Just had an amazing band, the old Joe Clarks. But yeah, that was another place up on Lincoln where like the great local steel player David Phillips lived up the street, so he might be. People just come wandering through sometimes while you're playing. They'd be in the control room talking to Wally while the session was running. Wally, great musician in his own right. And still running. We just record. Things kind of have come full circle with this last record because, we went over to Wally's over in the other side of the bay there, in Rockridge. He's got a studio up there, and just still just best set of ears in the city. Really, and having him and Mike work together on this record, it's just, I don't think you could do any better anywhere. This is called "Makes Me Think," and I re-recorded this up at Mike's, for my last record.
Okay.
And it's funny. I've listened to both, and they both have their charms. The other thing that Wally taught me, I have to say this, I think, is that I remember there was a point where, there's like a triangle, not in this song, but in another song, one of the early tapes. Back then we made these little 6 songs cassettes. That's what you would do because it's all you could afford. You weren't cutting vinyl or anything the hell else, and you'd maybe make a CD if you got picked up, or you decided to. There's no crowdfunding back then,
right?
Or anything else. If you could cobble it together
Just
somehow.
pass the hat.
Yeah.
That's all we got.
Somehow it ended up feeling like it was more crowdfunded that way.
Yeah.
Well, it was a real event to get a CD out.
Oh yeah.
To actually have a CD, it was a really, really big deal. Not to say there's not a big deal for me to make this last record too, but it was different. It really was different. And I'm glad there's a lot more music that gets out there, and I think that's great. It's a lot easier to do it, but there's something really, really special about getting a CD out. And people like Wally, without people like him, it never would have happened.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, for people that weren't signed, that were doing something that was independent, without places like that, there's just no way. And he was just so generous with his time and his talent. I'll always be grateful to him for that.
Awesome.
That was my first real experience in aside from I think I told you about. Anyway, there's another guy who had a studio, where the ballpark is, which was another. That's a whole nother. But that first tape that I made at that place was with Kate and Kurt and Bob Espirino playing mandolin, and that was another. Kurt is a really remarkable musician. Plays with the Tender Mercies to this day with Dan Vickery and Patrick Whittingham and me. I think they're actually putting another record out soon. I hope. I had the good fortune to play a show or two with them. But this here's this song.
Okay.
We used to say that we looked like brothers, and I guess it wasn't really very long ago. By the South Shore tracks and the hard heat of summer, a sack of blind robins and a 30-pack of strohs. How come nothing ever seems to last? Why do people fade away so fast? Poppies wilted in a water glass make me think of you. I used to drive around in a beat-up Buick, talk a lot of trash and shoot a little dope. When he hit hard times, try to see him through. Clean me out and headed for the coast. How come nothing ever seems to last? Why do people fade away so fast? Poppies wilted in a water glass make me think of you. The call in the dull dead of winter, and I guess it wasn't really very much of a surprise. That ain't him sleeping in the city. These ain't tears slipping out of my eyes. Why do people fade away so fast? Poppies wilted in a water glass. Make me think of you. How come nothing ever seems to last? Why do people fade away so fast? Poppies wilted in a water glass. Make me think of you. Make me think of you. That makes me think of you. It's actually a Chicago song that I wrote here, but, kind of harkening
The
back.
city, not the band.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The city, not the band.
Anyhow, but you said the song is.
Oh, yeah, there's some, regional references back to Chicago, which, but, like Blind Robins, there were these, like, little salted fish, that you would get at the bar in this little bag that had a robin on its back with an X over its eye.
Wow. Blind
They're
Robin.
basically, and, they're basically one of these snacks that they served in bars.
In bars in Chicago.
Yeah,
Good
to make you really drink beer.
Yeah, make you
We
thirsty.
did.
I could see that. Yeah.
We did. Yes, we did. I did back then. Not so much anymore. Another person I really want to kind of give it up to is Germ from KUSF. I don't know if he'd be someone. I got to tell you, if you want to talk to somebody that really knows like the musical history of the city in a way from back then, especially that probably nobody else does, you got to talk to Germ. I mean, before it got. They tried to keep it going, but when it was over there, and they've done great stuff, but it's not only one of those sad stories of, like, it was kind of a rite of passage to be on the show, and I remember I went over there with Denise from the Sunshine Club. She introduced me, and there were a number of different ways, but she was just kind of there. She was an advocate of our band. And played in the old Joe Clark's for a while with Mike, and has a radio show of her own now. That is just great. Great songwriter. Really one of the, along with Richard Buckner and Mike, I'd say from that period of time, one of the best songwriters around for my money anyway.
Cool.
Yeah, but Germ, like, we were so excited. We found, oh God, we got on Germ's show, and he was one of those people you'd hand him a tape, and he'd just, anybody that came out of San Francisco, pretty much in that period of time, the odds are that that's where you would have heard their music first if you didn't hear it in a club.
Nice.
And another one of these people that was just really dedicated to the scene, just so generous both with his time and in his spirit, and just made you feel like so much at home. Understood what the importance of the music underground and the importance of cultivating it, and just was so important in maintaining it. And it's irreverent, but in the best way. I think the folks over at Calyx, keep that alive today. But there really is, I can't think of anything that has the reach, because there are all kinds of great people. Radio Valencia, where Denise has her show.
Where
Song and Bone is her
I
show.
actually was on Radio Valencia last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with another storyteller who does a show there. Yeah.
Oh, great.
It was a lot of fun.
Great. Yeah, but there's all kinds of people doing wonderful things with the internet, but KUSF actually had. I used to tune it in all the time. Who's doing what? Who's on? What are the cool shows that are coming up? What have I? Whose mailing list am I not on, so I don't have the little postcard that I talked about before to hang up in the refrigerator.
Right.
And you would just hear like just great local stuff, stuff that I never would have heard anywhere else. You really had your ears open in a way that, and you would hear like, you'd hear maybe a old 97 record next to a Minutemen record next to, next to an Urge Overkill record or whatever, next to, Hank Williams. I know it was there was a different kind of
hopping genres, kind of.
Yeah.
Nice.
I saw him. I was playing on the street, and he came by, and I thanked him as best I could. But I don't know, I don't know exactly what he's up to. He stayed with KUSF for a while. I know. When it went underground and stuff, but I don't. I'm going to try to reach out to him actually for the show. And that's one of the nice things about playing on the street too, is that you do manage to connect with, kind of the people that were keepers of the flame for such a long time. You know, people that really deserve to be remembered, you know.
All music in this episode is by Brian Belknap. Film photography is by Michelle Kilfeather. Please remember to follow Storied San Francisco on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All the episodes and Michelle's photos of storytellers are up on our website, storiedsf.com. Other ways to listen include Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Apple Podcasts. You can reach us by email at storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks a lot for listening. Check back Tuesday for one more song and a few more stories from Brian Belknap.